Greetings, rise and shine, brethren. We are the World Global Reset Restoration Network family, comprised of 198 sovereign nations with over 7 billion sovereign principles, being of one mind, one heart, and one spirit, walking together under the divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I come to you as a voice in the wilderness to introduce to you a man. No, not just any man, but a man sent by Yah Allah to redeem mankind. Dr. Hindu I.L. Henderson, the Adak Chief Justice of the Universal World Court, and who's also known as Yehoshua Mashiach, the Son of Man. The information that you will be receiving in this and other videos you won't get from anywhere else on the planet. Hear the many truths and fulfillment of the laws, judgments, and sentencings from our Creator, Father Yah, as well as the fulfillment of the true interpretation of the Holy Scriptures and books. Now, without further ado, Dr. Hindu I.L. Henderson with his beloved host, Shelley Bowling.
Family, this passport is a vaccine certificate. And the global elite's plan, of course we know that Father Yah Allah's plan way supersedes anything that man could plan. But their intent with this vaccine certificate or passport is if you don't have it and you're getting ready to travel to another nation, if you don't have it, you can't travel. Not only if you don't have it, you can't even get on an airplane. And if you don't have it, you can't buy or sell. For those of you that study the scripture, you know that sounds just like the mark of the beast. And forcing you to accept it is their intent. But Father Yah Allah has a much greater plan. And He has given that plan to His Son, Yehoshua Mashiach. And now that plan is the one that is being implemented across this planet.
No, you can't fight it by yourself, I understand. But self-isolation, as we know now, it does do a lot for the universe. It has stopped pollution. If you have not yet noticed, or if they have not yet told you, it has stopped a lot of pollution that was going on, that was causing the earth to be destroyed. So now you can tell AOC, we don't need her screaming in someone's would-be so-called White House that we must stop the ozone, or that we must stop and find green energy, or that we must stop and find some way to save the trees. You can tell her she can stop screaming now. For it says that human self-isolation will do that. No, I'm not attacking her. I'm just giving her answers. For it says whereas with the human self-isolation now, the whole world is responding to it. This global pandemic has caused the whole world to respond to man's self-isolation, whereby now it says even the animals are beginning to return to what once was the jungle, that are now nothing more than towns and cities and subways. They have been able now to view mountain lions walking in Colorado in what once was nothing more than a community of people living in homes. But the mountain lions now are beginning to return even to that area, knowing that those homes now are sitting where mountains used to be, where men have been able to come in with huge and great equipment, where they were able to chop down the mountains and put nothing more than houses and put in playgrounds and would be those that they classified to be schools and churches. But now that they're all in isolation, self-isolation, the mountain lions are once again able to walk freely into the land in which they once hunted for their food. Boulder, Colorado is a place where once there was a major situation that happened there. Even throughout the schools now, many still find themselves being in a position where they now send their children to school a little bit different than what they did many years ago. For Boulder, Colorado, there, going to school is an everyday time where one finds himself being very careful. In Boulder, Colorado, you can't just allow your little young girl to be able to even be in her own household for the fear of someone snatching her from her would-be bed. But now that human self-isolation is up on, it seems as if though now the mountain lions can now come back and roam the land in which they were rudely kicked out. Many of them were killed off, but they're now returning. For even the monkeys in Thailand have begun to return to what they once deemed to be nothing more than a jungle, where now it has been usually full of humans. Now the streets have become empty again, where the monkeys are able now to return to those areas that they once deemed to be jungles, which now they're walking on paved streets because of human isolation. Yes, we must understand that much is happening now. But even the plants are beginning to grow again. There has been many areas now that once they had men out with lawnmowers and sling blades and everything that you could use, weed eaters and weed killers, just to destroy the land of what once grew there as plants and vegetation. And now, as man has isolated himself, human isolation, self-isolation, now the grass and those plants are beginning to grow again. They say crabs and wild boars. Wild boars are walking down the streets of Spain, Barcelona, where once upon a time there was a crowd of people, and even you, from time to time, you could find men being chased by wild would-be bulls, they would call them, that only were bulls that were truly tamed off of someone's farm. But now the wild boars that are truly wild are beginning to return to those streets as man finds himself in self-isolation. For the deers in India, the leopards in India, everything is returning to its place where it was once able to walk freely, but found itself being nothing more than a prisoner in a world whereby it was so small that they themselves began to die out from eating one another for the lack of room and for the lack of food. But now with man's self-isolation, they're beginning to now see a better place, a better world, a better life. I know. But up to this point, the United States of America, no one has ever thought to take an opportunity to sit down for realization, to realize exactly what was going on. No one. No one never realized that they had pushed those animals to almost extinction. For what reason? That you might be able to have more room to build homes where you will still have the majority of the people living outside classified as homeless. How can one build so many homes? How can one create so many communities and yet he have more people homeless than he would have them in the community or in the homes? And still now those homes are homes where no one is in, and even the animals now are beginning to pass by the homes for the lack of smelling what we classify to be dinner. For those homes are empty. And as man began to isolate himself, self-isolate himself, many of them are out isolating themselves while lying under trees or lying on the park benches, or even lying in what would be known as some cave that looks nothing more like a cave, but more like that which we classify to be a bridge, or an overpass, or an underpass because he's on the inside of it. This is what the world has to come to be able to recognize that the voice in which they're hearing now has been talking to them now for 30 plus years in regards to this. And everyone has laughed about it. Even the scientists have laughed about it, asking them what would happen if the oxygen in which they were sucking decided to change course. They're not laughing now. Right now, as we go forward in this world where now many are placing themselves in isolation, we must understand that now in the United States of America, they are beginning to allow those through what is known as the year of Jubilee. They're allowing people now to become those that will be freed out of incarceration. Soon they will come to a point where they will almost release, if not all of them will be released from the prisons, the jails, incarceration. But yet and still they want to incarcerate others. For if you, they say, violate something that is known as self-isolation, after being locked down by the government, if you violate it, they're going to arrest you, and they believe they can hold you at least for 6 months or more for violating lockdown or isolation. Yes, and if you get caught coughing or sneezing on one another, you can be held on a crime whereby it will be classified as purposely done, and thereby they will classify you as a terrorist. But it's not like I haven't told you what the terrorist law was to do before. The terrorist law was set up to make everybody on the planet be nothing more than terrorists. If you are of a Christian faith, if you are of a spiritual faith, you were classified by even the signing of Barack Obama to be a terrorist. If you were in any would-be so-called secret organizations such as KKK, Black Panther. Even he was able to place on the Hebrew Israelites, Moors, all of these names in which he was able to sign in a document to classify them to be none other than terrorists, if they even mentioned to be part of those, they would be classified as terrorists. But I told him, I gave him strict information that before you sign over anyone and any would be titled to be a terrorist, you have best first check yourself. Because there's going to come a moment where you too will be required to give an account whether you are a terrorist or not. And right now, I know it's probably a pleasant would-be stay, a pleasant would-be living, because Mr. Barack Obama, I know you're living now in something that is known as Martha Venue, one of the places that has been dreamed of by many of men to just be able to go there to visit, and you're now one of the residents there. In what is known as self-isolation, self-distancing. You're part of it right now, just as I told you would be. And I guarantee you, if you travel right now, you won't be able to travel the world freely as you really, truly thought you would be able to, are you? Because if you do, I want you to be advised that if you get caught in any other nation right now, other than America, you're going to be classified as terrorist. Because they're going to deem you to be contaminated by way of the so-called would-be coronavirus of the United States of America. And they don't want you bringing the American virus to any other nation right now. So in case you believe that you can freely move around, I just want to remind you, don't try it. Even if you got invited right now, I would tell you, don't do it. Because you're in isolation. They are telling you self-isolation. But if you get caught outside right now of this nation, you're going to be stuck there for a long time to come. China is beginning to close its borders now. It has come to a point right now in the United States of America where China is beginning to feel a little bit better about the virus now that they believe that they're coming through it. They're not going to allow you to bring back any contamination, whereby they would have already rid themselves of. So they are closing their borders. Let me help you out. Canada is beginning to close its borders. Let me help you out, America. Germany is beginning to close its borders. Let me help you out, America. South Korea, North Korea, Japan, the UK, they're beginning to close their borders now. Let me help you out. Does this sound familiar to you? Because when Donald Trump, your president, the trumpet blower, the sixth trumpet, was blowing and telling you all that he was trying to close the borders by building walls, you disagreed. And all of you are still disagreeing. You're believing that Mr. J.B., known as Joe Biden, can somehow come in and take over presidency where he might be able to usher back in that which is known as the Obama administration or possibly the Clinton administration, whereby they will be able to protect you from this virus. It's ludicrous. Joe Biden can't protect himself from memory loss. Stay with me. I didn't say that for you to start laughing. For now, the United States of America is trying to move fast and quickly to reopen its would-be nation. It's trying, if it might deem itself to be still a nation, it's trying to open its communities. It's trying to open its government. It's trying to open its economy. It's trying to open its even medical would-be fields of working. And it is one of the nations, if we might give it a title of such, is one of those who have always brought an example that everyone on the planet has followed, but it has followed to a destination of nothing more than destruction. And we have to be honest and true and open about this. No one now can find himself taking the back would-be or back roads, or what we would say the back stops or the back world. No one can take a back seat to what is being said now, because we're talking about an area which is huge, it's large in size, but at the same time it doesn't carry that many people. America being of only about 325, 26 million now, if that, at the max, knowing that it has given over now to approximately about 5.2 million to unemployment. And thereby, when looking into these areas, we look at the destruction in which all the other nations allow themselves to be pulled into by following example. So at this time, I do want to truly humbly thank the nations like the UK, who has stepped out to say, for at the least, they are now looking to extend their would-be isolation or their distancing from all the things in which bring about a pandemic, and to make it be worse than what it is now. They have at least extended their would-be homestay or their isolation or that which is classified as their quarantine. They are extending it by another 3 weeks, and I want to humbly thank the UK, but at the same time, Canada is speaking of the same thing, and many of the other nations are speaking of the same things, and yet and still a nation whom will have to understand that you do carry a lot of weight when it comes to setting the example. And many of the nations are going to follow you, and I would tell you, woe unto you, for because of your destruction of the others, by having them follow your example of opening up and trying to set yourselves in a position where you can once again feel like you're the captain of the kings, or king captain, or captain kangaroo, I would say. You want to deem yourself as one that can hop by everyone else and be able to set the pace for everyone to follow you in a manner where you believe that it's going to be successful. Let me help you out. Not going to happen. We already have heard that the United States believes that it has already come up with a vaccine for what is known as coronavirus, or for the COVID-19 or COVID-19. But we must tell the world, no one can fall for this trickery. Not again. Because I am saying, as I will repeat, those things that are happening now are going to begin to multiply. Right now, even though America is claiming to have come up with some vaccine only because it has already supposedly cured 113 people, it's obvious that they don't know how to do numbers. Remember, I don't do numbers, but I can. And to say that right now that the world has lost over 17,000 people, 17,000, that would be a great number. But to say you have lost 17,000, you have to understand that when you're talking about some millions and millions of people who have already been infected by it, and you're talking right now of almost, and I would say, a little over 500 million people that has been infected by the coronavirus, and over half of them have already succumbed to it by way of death. And you believe that now that you are going to give someone a number as weak as a number of 113 people who have taken some vaccine that's been supposedly created in some American laboratory that is that successful that one can just run out and open up his government. One can stop practicing social distancing. One can go out and stop worrying about these things that will be classified as self-quarantine or self-isolation. You know, America is one that we have to make sure that we talk to it in a manner where it will at least be chastised to a point of reality where it has to come to its senses, where it won't allow itself to become a child of ignorance based upon the fact of not being knowledgeable of something, but at the same time pretending that